Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. My name is Emma Jordan. I'm Deputy Head Teacher at Woodland School. I have responsibility, amongst other things, for overseeing the options process. And I'm really pleased that you could join me this evening as we embark on this exciting time for our Year 8 pupils as they start on their journey, making those choices of what they're going to study for the next 3 years at Woodlands. So the format of this evening is that I'll go through the PowerPoint with you and explain, give you some information about the process. I'll also give you some information about the pathways, as well as giving you information about support that pupils will receive in order to help them make those choices. Then I've got some frequently asked questions to go through with you after that, and then you have the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have at the end of the evening. So the key aims of this evening are to give you some initial information about the process. I want to explain the pathway opportunities that we offer here. And as I said, I'd like to go through the support that's available both to you and to the pupils as they go through this process that starts today. So what we want for all of our pupils is based around our curriculum intent, which centres on our vision of Arrow. We want all of our pupils to be well informed. We want them to be proactive and be able to make positive steps about their own education, employment or training in the future. We do encourage pupils to strive and aim as high as possible, aiming for Russell Group universities, potentially higher apprenticeships, high level employment, whether it's in London or further afield. Pupils' cultural capital is essential part of our school life, and we want to make sure that pupils leave us as well-rounded and well-informed individuals who've had equal opportunities, whether they went to our school or any other school across the country. We need to make sure that all Woodlands pupils, particularly those with special educational needs or disabilities, are also equipped with vital life skills that they will require in order to flourish and excel in their adult life as well. The R stands for resilience. This is a key skill required throughout life. So resilience teaches pupils how to cope with those setbacks. School is a safe place for them to fail, for them to learn from their mistakes. That's what we want for our pupils. We want them to make those mistakes, but then to improve and to get better. We want this pupil to develop the skill whilst they're with us at Woodlands in this safe environment so that they are well equipped for any challenges they might come across in later life. We want pupils to take opportunities. So maths and English are very important in the curriculum and beyond. We want pupils to leave us highly literate and numerate. Oracy is a highly desirable skill for employers for anything pupils are going to do in their future career. So we make sure that we foster those skills with pupils right the way throughout their time at Woodlands, and particularly in focus at Key Stage 4. We want to support pupils in taking opportunities to embrace wider school life, making sure that they take part in a range of activities outside of the curriculum as well, which help to foster those relationships with staff and to take them out of their comfort zone, just to challenge them and to make sure that they are pushing themselves as far as they possibly can. We want pupils to be excellent, and that doesn't just mean excellence in individual subjects, but that means to develop a love of learning and to pursue excellence in everything that they aim for and strive for, whether that's an academic course or not. We do offer a very strong academic core in our subjects here, supports both their academic, creative, technical or vocational ambitions, regardless of which pathway they wish to pursue. We want pupils to become experts in their subjects, and we want pupils to make sure that they are widely read, and that they, as I said before, they really develop that value of lifelong learning. So the aims of our curriculum is to ensure that we offer an inclusive curriculum for pupils with SEND, that we have a broad and balanced curriculum for all pupils. We have a wide variety of subjects for people to choose from, which allows their learning to be personalised, and it allows people to select courses that suit their own particular learning styles, their own particular learning needs, their ambitions, their interests. We want pupils to choose things that they're going to be passionate about, that they're going to enjoy learning, and that will stand them in really good stead for whatever they decide to pursue in the future. We want to make sure that everybody is challenged at the appropriate level, and we want to make sure that pupils leave us as well-rounded individuals. So our Arrow curriculum develops the whole child, ensuring that pupils have the skills outside of the classroom, those soft skills and those experiences they need in order to make a success wherever they end up going on once they leave Woodland School. So I just wanted to talk you through some of the changes. It says they're recent changes, that they're not so recent anymore, but they may well be new to you if you came through school on the old grading system. So essentially, Year 11 now all pupils are assessed at the end of Year 11. Their courses generally are all assessed at the end of Year 11, and for a lot of the subjects that pupils do, the exams do form 100% of those assessments. There are still some subjects which offer non-exam assessment, so coursework and controlled assessment for some of those Key Stage 4 courses, but the majority of the subjects are 100% exam based. The grading system for GCSE is now 9 to 1. So 9 is now the highest grade, and 1 being the lowest GCSE grade. And you can see there the table lays out how that's mapped against the old style A to G. So you can see that there's now 3 grades in that A band. So rather than an A and an A star, there's now a 7, which would equate to an A, an 8, and then a 9. So almost like you're getting an A star star, if you like. We've got the lower band beneath that, you've got a B, which roughly equates to a 6. And then we've got a strong pass, which is a strong C, and a standard pass, which is the standard C. So you almost got 2 C grades there as well. And you can see how that maps out to those grades below that then as well. We also, as well as GCSE qualifications, we offer level 2 qualifications as well. So those are equivalent of GCSE qualifications. They're widely accepted in all sixth forms, colleges, but they are a qualification that has a higher level of vocational aspect. Quite often these subjects tend to be the ones with more non-exam assessment rather than the 100% exam. And you can see there how the grades map out against those GCSE grade equivalents. So you can see the highest grade there that you can get on a level 2 vocational qualification would be an 8.5. So somewhere between the 8 and the 9 GCSE grade. You can see there the level 2 pass, that equates to a standard pass at GCSE. And you can see the gradings that sit in those bands in between there as well. So the Year 9 curriculum will look like this for pupils. So the majority of our pupils will be on the red pathway. So I'll go into the pathway a little bit more detail in a moment. But you can see that the red pathway there for the majority of our pupils, they will study next year 4 hours of English, 4 hours of maths, 4 hours of science. They'll have 2 hours of their chosen language, and then they will have 3 hours of their chosen humanity, but still retaining 1 hour in the other, either geography or history, to ensure that they're covering the national curriculum and that they've got that balance so they can make an informed choice. They'll have an hour of PE a week, they'll have an hour of Arrow, 1 hour of citizenship, religion and ethics as well. It dovetails with Arrow, sits alongside that. And then you'll see they'll have 2 hours of their first chosen option and then 2 hours of their second chosen option. So let's go into the pathways in a little bit more detail now. So the majority of our pupils will follow the red pathway curriculum. Around 95% of our pupils will follow that in Year 9. It is an ambitious academic curriculum, and it keeps young people's options open for further study and future careers. So when we are giving them as a wide range of subjects as possible, with as much academic rigor as possible, so that we're not closing any doors to them when they leave, they'll have options to go in whichever direction they choose. So the curriculum includes maths and English language and literature. So pupils will sit both in English language and literature GCSE. That's the same for all pupils, regardless of what pathway they're on. Combined science, modern foreign language, and then either history or geography. Year 9 pupils study both history and geography, as I mentioned just before, but they'll opt to focus more on one than the other. And then they will continue with one of those subjects in Years 10 and 11. So they will drop either the history or geography by the end of Year 9. If we're thinking about the option subjects, so these are the options that are available to our pupils. So all pupils select 2 of these options, and then we ask them to select 2 reserves as well. So you can see listed down there, you've got quite a wide range of subjects. It will say next to them whether they're a GCSE subject or whether they are a level 2 qualification. And you can also see there's an asterisk next to some of those subjects Those are the subject choices, which include an options assessment, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a moment. If pupils are interested in the sports course, for example, they would just select sports course on their options form, and then the PE department will have a conversation or have a look at pupils' strengths in those particular areas and decide whether the sports study or the GCSE physical education is the best course for them. Similarly, with music, pupils will opt for a music subject, and then the conversation will take place in the music department about whether the pupil is best suited to the music performance qualification or the music technology qualification. So I just mentioned options assessments. So there are some subjects that have a particularly high level of academic rigour, and therefore if pupils opt for those subjects, we get them to sit a short options assessment a little bit later on in the term. So it's not anything for pupils to worry about or anything for them to prepare for. It's simply a short assessment that just tests whether pupils will be able to meet the demands of the course. The last thing we want to do is put pupils on courses that are not going to suit their particular learning style or their particular learning needs. So we do make sure that we carefully check those before we allow pupils to take those courses. If there are any concerns about pupil suitability for a course, teachers will discuss those concerns with pupils that they have well in advance of any final decisions being made. So there is then the opportunity to look at those reserve choices or alternative courses which may be similar to the one they've opted for in the first place. The subjects that require options assessments will have that asterisk on the options form, as you've just seen on that previous slide as well. So this is what your options form is going to look like if you were on the red pathway. So it lists at the top of the form the core subjects that the red pathway pupils will study. So they're the ones that they don't have any selection over. It also lists on their languages, because by this point pupils have selected their language. That process took place at the end of year 7, so they've opted for their language. They're going to continue studying right the way through to the end of Key Stage 4. Then you have got on number 2 there, you can see that they can select their 2 free options and then their 2 reserve options. So you'll get 4 sets of lists that look like that: 1 for the first choice, 1 for the second choice, and then 1 for each of the reserve choices as well. You'll see on the bottom there, we've got GCSE statistics listed as well, which we're offering as an option this year. That will be targeted specifically at set 1 and set 2 pupils. So that's not an option that's open to all pupils, purely because of the nature of the course. And then thirdly, pupils will need to select their 3-to-1 humanities focus. So that's whether they want to study 3 hours of history and 1 hour of geography, or vice versa, or whether they have no preference. And there they can just simply select the appropriate choice there. When pupils move into years 10 and 11 on the red pathway, their curriculum does change a little bit. So they will cease to study the core subject of citizenship, religion and ethics, and they will then pick up an extra hour of science. So they end up with 5 hours of science on their timetable rather than 4. This is to account for the amount of content that science is covered in science on the combined and on the triple courses. Pupils will then pursue, as I said before, 1 humanities subject at the end of the GCSE course. That's either then history or the geography. They pick up history or geography for 3 hours, and they don't continue with the other subject. In year 10 and 11 as well, we have an additional pathway which we call the purple pathway. Now this is a bespoke pathway, and it is decided upon, or we look to make those changes towards the end of year 9. So there might be some pupils for whom the red pathway is not the correct pathway moving into 10 and 11, and we might look for those pupils to remove either their humanities subject or their modern foreign language subject. And instead of that, they will be offered 1 further option from a small selection of suitable courses that will replace that time on their timetable. This ensures that all pupils achieve the best possible grades. It's at the teacher's discretion who will move on to that purple pathway, and recommendations will be made to you. We'll communicate with you towards the end of year 9. Although we won't force any pupil to move, we will make the recommendation that pupils either discontinue the humanities or the modern foreign language if that's the pathway for your child. So pupils still receive the same number of qualifications as those pupils on the red pathway, and they still have the breadth of subjects which still meets the government requirements as well. We also have a blue pathway, which is a bespoke curriculum for some of our pupils with SEND. The core curriculum for that is exactly the same as the red pathway, but pupils on that pathway will receive an extra hour of both English and of maths as well. In year 9, they will study 3 hours of humanities and receive an entry level certificate. They will also continue with Spanish into year 9, and they will study an hour of Spanish up until the end of year 9. These pupils on their options forms also have the 2 free choices, and that will be mixed in with the same pupils who are attending those classes as the red pathway pupils. So you might be asking what informs our pathway recommendation. So we look at a range of data. We base it on Key Stage 2 prior attainment data. We base it on current pupil progress. We liaise closely with the aspirations faculty and take their recommendations on board as well. And we use any pastoral information that we have as well. So for the blue pathway pupils, their curriculum looks slightly different in year 9. So you can see they get that extra hour there of English and maths. They have the same hours of science. There'll be 1 hour of MFL. Their geography and history is joined together as humanities. And then you can see for all the other lessons, they have the same number of lessons on their timetable as red pathway pupils. The options available to pupils in the blue pathway are very similar. There's still a very wide range of courses available. And you can see there's a mixture there of GCSE courses as well as level 2 qualifications. The options form looks slightly different for the blue pathway. The core subjects are listed, and then the free option choices are listed there as well. Obviously, there's no need for them to select humanities because they won't be selecting between history and geography. So that section is missing from that blue pathway form. As I said, 95% of pupils will be on the red pathway. It's a small number of pupils that the bespoke blue pathway curriculum would apply to. For blue pathway pupils in year 10, they will cease to study CRE, so citizenship, religion, ethics, as with the red pathway. They will also cease to study Spanish at that point and humanities as well. They will get the extra hour of science that the red pathway get as well. And then they will begin an additional free option from a selection of small selection of suitable courses. So they'll pick up an additional choice in year 10 as well. So things for pupils really to be mindful of when they're making their options choices. We want them to avoid some of these pitfalls. We don't want them picking subjects because they like the teacher. They don't know who's going to be teaching that subject to them in year 9, 10 or 11. So it needs to be a subject that they are invested in and they want to do, that they enjoy. We don't want them picking subjects because their friends are doing it. We want them to make their own choices and make sure that they are making those right selections for them. Some pupils are under maybe the misapprehension that some subjects might be easier and might pick a subject because they think it's an easier option. It really is. A subject is easy if you're interested in it. If you're passionate about it, you will enjoy that subject and you will find that much easier to get on with rather than trying to pick something that you think might be less hard work. What we want people to do is make sure that they attend options taster sessions and any options assessments. I'll talk to you a little bit about the options taster sessions in a moment. We've spoken about the options assessments. So they need, if they are being offered those, they need to make sure that they're attending those. Pupils need to be careful about assuming that subjects will be the same in 9 to 11 as it's been in 7 and 8. This is why we offer pupils lots of information about the courses before they make their selections, to make sure that they are aware of those differences. So essentially what you will receive at the end of this evening's presentation, you'll receive this presentation. You will also receive the options booklet, and that lays out for you and for your children exactly what each subject offers, whether it's core or an option choice. It lays out what the exam looks like, what's expected of the pupils in that lesson, where it can lead to. So it is a really detailed booklet. We really urge you to go through that booklet with your children and look at what the subjects look like at Key Stage 4 in years 9 to 11 to make sure that they are making an informed choice. We don't want pupils picking their options too early in the process. So after this evening's presentation, you'll receive this information, and then on January the 19th, your options forms are due. In between that, we offer pupils options assemblies, options taster sessions, And then after those options assemblies and options taster sessions have taken place, that's when we send out the options form for pupils to fill in. We don't want pupils jumping the gun. We want them to have all the information that is available to them, and they've listened to everything on offer before they make those choices. And we really do encourage them to discuss their choices with you at home, with us in school, with their teachers, with heads of department. And parents' evening, hopefully on Thursday, will be a really ideal opportunity for you to have some of those conversations if you have questions as well. So I've got a few frequently asked questions to go through with you. I'm going to lay out the timeline then for the options taster sessions for you as well. And then if you have any questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat, and I can answer those at the end as well. So we often get asked, what should pupils consider when they select their options? So pupils need to make their choices using the guidance below. So it is really about that information, finding out as much information as you can about the subjects you're considering choosing. We've talked about the fact that subjects might not always be the same in Key Stage 3 as they are in Key Stage 4. So looking, what are those differences? What are the expectations? How are they different? I've talked about passion and enjoyment. Pupils will excel in subjects that they enjoy. So that is a really, really important factor when they are making those selections. We need to make sure that subjects suit pupils' learning needs as well. So if pupils are more interested in hands-on, more practical subjects, that they are picking those. And encouraging pupils to think about where their successes lie already. What are they good at? Where do they think they could do well moving into Year 9? We often get asked why people start their options in Year 9 rather than waiting to 10 and 11. And what we offer is we teach the national Key Stage 3 national curriculum in most subjects by the end of Year 8. So we are ensuring we're covering the national curriculum, and we don't want Year 9 to be almost a wasted year. We want pupils to have a personalised curriculum that suits their learning needs as soon as possible. Giving them some ownership over the subjects they want to study really does foster that engagement as well. We give them more time to study their option subjects, so that means they benefit from a greater depth and knowledge in those subjects, so they're not starting them and straight away into that GCSE content. It gives us the time in the Year 9 to build that knowledge and build those skills that they need so that they can start those courses properly in Year 10. So Year 9 isn't really a GCSE year as such. The courses that people study are sort of pre-GCSE. They touch on elements and they introduce the GCSE study, but the breadth of the Year 9 curriculum is beyond simply preparing pupils for their exams in Year 11. We often get asked why pupils can't combine a certain selection of subjects. Whilst we do try and offer pupils their first choice as much as we possibly can, and we do have a very high percentage rate of offering people their first choices. It was above 85% last year. We are bound by Ofqual's guidance, and if courses are considered to be too similar, pupils aren't allowed to study narrow the curriculum too much and study courses that are too similar. And if there are any courses that applies to, they would have been outlined on the options form and in the options booklet. You'll see quite clearly in the options booklet, it will say this course cannot be studied alongside. A good example of that would be GCSE business and retail business. The courses are too similar. So if people is picking GCSE business studies, they wouldn't also be able to pick retail business. So please do look out for that in the options booklet, but it will also be listed for you on the options form as well. Do other schools get to select more options? I think we offer a really, really broad range here. Pupils here receive an average of 9 qualifications, which is typical of other schools. But the choice that they get, the 2 free options where they can select any subject they wish, and we don't really have blocks restricting the choices that they can make, means that pupils do get a really good selection of subjects that they can choose from. By Year 10, they are also then choosing between history and geography, so that's another option. Red pathway pupils continue to study their chosen modern foreign language, so that's a choice that they've made as well, albeit lower down the school. And then blue and purple pathway pupils select an alternative subject as their 4th option when they discontinue humanities or modern foreign languages. There's another option for those pupils there as well. We do sometimes get asked whether pupils can study 2 modern foreign languages or both history and geography. Both of those subjects are in bucket 2, which does recognise the academic demand of those courses. They are academically rigorous, and there is a lot of content and skill to be covered. So we wouldn't normally recommend that a pupil study both history and geography, as it could overburden them in year 11, particularly when it comes to revision for the exams and the amount of time spent in the exams as well. We don't also recommend pupils picking up a second modern foreign language because they wouldn't have studied that language since year 7 and not to the depth that they would have studied the other language in year 8. So it gives them an imbalance there in terms of their skill in that second language. We would, however, be willing to discuss possible routes with parents and carers if there is a well-considered and reason behind that desire. So it's not something we're saying an absolute no to, it's just something we would strongly recommend against. If you have any strong desire to pursue that, please, you can indicate that. There's a final question box on the options form that gives you the opportunity to ask any additional questions, and you could put that question in that option, in that question box on the form. We do get asked whether pupils can change their options. And the reason we give pupils so much information in advance of the options, encourage these conversations, give them assemblies, give them taster sessions, is to make sure that they give time and are given support to consider the different subjects really carefully. So once they've selected their options, it will have an impact on the school staffing and the rooming decisions for the next academic year. So we build the timetable essentially around the options that pupils have selected at the end of year 8 going into year 9. In addition to that, changing courses once they've begun can be disruptive for pupils' progress. They'll have missed out on content that's already been taught in that lesson. It's very difficult for the pupils then to catch that content up. They wouldn't have any teaching on that piece of content that they've missed, and it can disrupt the curriculum for other pupils as well. So we do strongly discourage pupils from changing their options in year 9. Any requests to change options must be made in writing from the parent carer, and that needs to be within the first 4 weeks of the course commencing. We do need to make sure we're getting this right first time round, which is why you're investing the time this evening, and we're investing time in pupils over the coming weeks in informing them about all the different subjects are on offer and what those subjects look like. As I mentioned to you earlier, the options forms then aren't going to be sent home until the 18th of December, and that's when we conclude our cycle of options assemblies. So they've had the opportunity to consider every option really carefully. So we talked about sort of percentage rates of pupils receiving their option choices. So there's no guarantee that pupils will get their chosen options, but we do make every effort to try and match pupils' choices as closely as possible. We can't guarantee that any course is going to run. Unfortunately, if the numbers aren't there for a particular subject, then we won't be able to run that subject. There might also be staffing changes that we can't foresee at this present moment in time, or timetable clashes if a pupil selects 2 subjects that happen to run on the timetable at the same time. So we can't guarantee that pupils will get their chosen options. But as I say, we do try and match their option choices as closely as possible, and are generally really quite successful in doing that. This is why we ask people to select 2 reserve choices to avoid disappointment. So on that form, as well as their 2 top choices, we'll ask them to pick their 2 reserves, and those are the choices that we would default to. So it's not that we're picking choices that pupils haven't shown an interest in. We would default to the reserve option choices if we needed to. If that is going to be the case, though, we will contact parents and carers directly to let you know if there's the two chosen subjects, if pupils are not able to pursue those, and make sure that pupils are still happy with their reserve choice, and open that dialogue then at that point as well. So that's not necessarily set in stone. We do often get asked whether pupils' post-16 choices or career options might be affected by the options that they select, because we do appreciate this is obviously, they're quite young still to be making choices. We don't want them to think that they are excluding themselves from any particular post-16 choice or career by making choices at the moment in time. It is good for pupils to be thinking about what they might want to do in the future, It's a good conversation to have with them, a good thought process for them to be pursuing at the moment. But the main thing is that they're giving themselves as broad a curriculum as possible to get through the option choices to ensure that when they do leave, they've got a real balance of subjects across the board, which will open up lots of opportunity for them. When they make their option choices, there's very few careers that you can rule out by picking the wrong subject, if you like, at Key Stage 4. However, if a pupil is adamant that they know they want to study something at A level, then it would be prudent to make that option choice at this point now, because that will obviously be beneficial to them if they go and study at A level to have already studied it at GCSE. So just to summarise the support that your child is going to be given throughout this process, I've touched on quite a lot of it already. We've got the options booklet, which will come out to you tonight at the end of this presentation. Then we have the options assemblies. Now they start on Friday, on the 5th, and each assembly, so pupils will have an assembly a day for the next 2 weeks. And in each of those assemblies, we'll have a couple of the heads of department coming in and talking through their individual subjects, so that pupils have a really clear picture, not only of what they can do with the subject later on in life, also critically what it entails, what it looks like for them when they start studying that subject in Year 9. For any subjects that are new to pupils, so you'll have noticed on the options list, there's subjects on there that pupils don't study at Key Stage 3. So for any of those new subjects, we often offer options taster sessions at lunchtime. So pupils can go along to those taster sessions and try the subject out. I mean, it's only 20 minutes, 25 minutes, but it gives them a flavour of what that subject looks like, to go into a classroom, for example, a construction classroom, and see what that room looks like, and to hear what goes on in those lessons is really, really valuable, we think, for pupils. They get support in tutor time, so they can talk to their tutor about their option choices and get some guidance there as well. They can speak to heads of department, as indeed we would encourage you to do, a parents' evening. So if you are coming on Thursday and there are heads of department you'd like to see, there'll be signs on the desk indicating to you which of the teachers there are also heads of department. So if you can nip in and see them between appointments, if they've got the capacity, that's great. If you aren't able to see somebody, I will be there. I'll have a desk available to meet with you at parents' evening anytime between 4 and 7. So you'll see me in the atrium. So please do pop along if you've got any questions as well. So just some key dates now for you to remember. So on Thursday, as I've mentioned, we've got the parents' evening coming up, and then on Friday we start our options assemblies, and they run through to the 18th of December, and we also start our options taster sessions. Then on the 18th of December, the options forms are sent home to parents and carers via email. Monday, the 19th of January is the deadline for the final options to be submitted via the Microsoft forms that will be sent out to you on the 18th of December. And then in February, we have a week where we conduct those options assessments based on the choices that people have made when they've submitted their forms in January. And pupils will be advised via their tutors when they need to attend these options assessments, if that applies to them, and they'll come along and sit those in a lunchtime. If they've got more than one, they'll come along at different lunchtimes. And then on Thursday, the 26th of March, that's when the option choices will be confirmed to you in writing, and will be sent home to you just before we break up for the Easter break. I mentioned to you the taster sessions. It might be useful for you to have a quick overview as to the taster sessions that are going on at lunchtime. So these are the subjects that obviously pupils haven't studied before at Key Stage 3. There will be taster sessions going on within subjects that they do at Key Stage 3 at the moment. For example, if they do food tech teachers will be talking to them about what hospitality and catering looks like as an option subject. So they'll be getting that information about those subjects, but it will come through their subjects. These are the additional sessions that we are putting on for pupils as well there. So pupils need to decide which ones they want to attend and attend as many as they possibly can. On the day of the taster session, they'll have had the taster assembly in the morning. At the end of the assembly, they'll collect a lunch pass queue, which means they can skip the lunch queue, go to the front of the lunch queue, grab their lunch quickly, and then they can promptly arrive at their taster session so that they're not missing out on any of that by getting their lunch. They can take their lunch, obviously, with them to the taster sessions as well. So what should you do next? So your next steps are, as I've asked, please do discuss with your child what sorts of subject they enjoy, what they think they're doing well in, what interests they have, what they think they might want to pursue when they leave school. The options booklet, please do go through that. You'll get the digital copy tonight. Pupils will get a paper copy when their assemblies start on Friday. So you have it in both formats. Hopefully your child will bring that home for you on Friday. And then just essentially decide which options taster sessions you suggest that they go to, they would like to go to, and encourage them to just make sure they know when they are taking place. If there's any confusion or you've got any questions, please contact me via my email address, or come and see me at the Year 8 Parent and Carer Consultation Evening. And then once your child is sure on their option choices, please complete the options form. As I say, that will be sent out on the 18th of December after the final options assembly and taster session has taken place. And the deadline for that is then the 19th of January. So if you do feel the need to get in contact with me, please do feel free to. My email address is there. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you on the evening at Parents' Evening if you are there, and I can meet you then. I'm now going to see if we've got any questions that people wanted to ask before we just conclude the session. Okay, quite a comprehensive job of giving you all the information you need, because I've got no questions coming in at the moment. I was going to give it another few seconds, see if there's anything that comes in. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, for your time this evening. I really do appreciate it. This presentation will be available to watch via our website, so there'll be a link on our website that you can re-watch should you feel the need to. The presentation itself will be sent out to you via email tonight, along with the options booklet. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing some of you on Thursday. Thank you. Bye-bye.